SZA versus Nicki Minaj conflict is viral on the internet. But did you know the secret message from SZA that sparked the war between these two stars? What started as a small online ripple pulled in politics, old scores, fan armies, and power plays. Now the question isn't just who started it, it's who gets to write what comes next. Yeah, stay tuned till the end to get every point of this war in detail. Let's start. The whole thing kicked off in a small space where people read between lines, and every little post gets a weight it might not deserve. It didn't begin with a public fight or a track. It started when Nicki Minaj went public and said Terrence "Punch" Henderson, the head of Top Dog Entertainment and someone tied closely to SZA's world, had treated her badly in a business situation. That call-out dropped something heavy into a place that already had pressure under the surface. People were watching, and it made the air feel tight. Then, about an hour later, SZA posted a short message about Mercury retrograde. Don't take the bait, LOL silly goose. On the face of it, it looked like a casual, spiritual note, something she might say when things feel off. But you know how this culture works. Quiet words get read hard, and people try to pull meaning out of everything. Nicki saw that post and took it as a shot aimed at her. She didn't wait to see if it was really about her or ask for clarity. Instead, she reacted with strong response. What started as her backing up someone she felt was connected to her turned fast into a direct clash with SZA herself. That moment jumped, because both sides came in carrying history and tension. Nicki had been talking openly about people trying to push others around and about power moving in ways that felt unfair. So when she sensed something shaded her, even if it was subtle, she didn't let it slide. She came back with full force, calling it out loud and making it clear she was not going to be ignored. SZA's move was different. It wasn't loud or aggressive. It was quiet and coded. The kind of thing that could have been brushed off if the mood around it wasn't already charged. That contrast between someone coming at it with direct fire and someone giving a low-key response made the first spark feel bigger than it had to be. It stopped being just about a post or a comment. It became about control. Who gets to say what happened? Who looks aggressive? Who looks calm? Who has respect? And who's being boxed into a story? From that point, the lines were drawn. It wasn't just words anymore. It pulled in name, history, and how each side wanted to be seen. A quiet line turned into a challenge because people were already looking for one, and the loud answer made sure nobody could ignore it. That first flicker set the tone for everything that followed, and there was no easy way to turn it down after that. So yeah, Nicki Minaj didn't hold back. The moment she felt that subtle shot, what she saw as a subtweet, she went full energy. It started with her calling out Punch, pointing to how she felt he treated her and making it clear she wasn't going to let that slide. But then the heat moved to SZA herself. Nicki's posts stopped being about a business disagreement and got personal fast. She questioned how real SZA's success was, saying she was stretching numbers with deluxe versions and making it sound like the calm, spiritual vibe was covering up something else. That step made it feel like the quiet type wasn't actually confident, and that opened the door for everything after. She didn't just criticize music. Nicki went after how SZA presented herself, her sound, her energy, even her look. Lines comparing her voice to something lifeless, and the mocking comment about drawing freckles back on were not small jabs. They were meant to poke and push, to throw off the calm image and make people question what was underneath. It was a move to break the peace and show who had the loudest control. What made it stick was how sharp and direct she was. Nicki has done this before. When she had problems with Cardi B or others, she turned those clashes into stories people followed. This time, she did the same to someone who usually stays out of loud fights. SZA's whole brand was quiet depth and emotional honesty. So when Nicki attacked that, it felt like she was trying to pull a curtain off someone who rarely let the public see behind it. That contrast made the response feel even bigger, the calm being hit with full force. The aim wasn't just to talk bad about a rival. Nicki wanted to disrupt the space SZA held in people's minds. She wanted to send a clear message. If you think you can throw shade in soft tones and keep your image untouched, you'll get answered in a way that draws all eyes. It was about control, showing that she could push back hard and that the story could shift to who was the one striking first, who was being questioned, and who was the one people would remember. That loud, public, and sharp response dragged the whole situation deeper. It stopped being just a social media exchange and became a clash over image, power, and respect. People around them watched how Nicki shaped the narrative, making sure her version of the moment was the one spreading, and making sure no one forgot who started the fight and who kept hitting. SZA's response wasn't built like a usual fight. She didn't go back and forth with loud shots or try to match the noise. At first, she stepped back, stayed calm, and kept doing her thing. That Mercury retrograde "Don't take the bait, LOL silly goose" post was her way of keeping distance, letting people see she wasn't letting the chaos pull her in. It looked like a shrug, a quiet signal that she wasn't getting pulled off her path. Nicki saw it differently, and the tension grew, but SZA didn't feed it right away. Instead, she stayed focused on what actually mattered to her and her fans. Her tour kept rolling, fans showed up packed, and she kept giving those moments that felt real and close. Yeah, while everyone around was turning every line into a headline, she kept showing that her life and work didn't depend on reacting fast or going loud. The strength in that was quiet, but it hit hard. Her calendar was full, her shows were selling out, and her people were solid. That balance kept her grounded while the other side kept pushing. When the pressure came again, and things kept getting pushed toward drama, she changed the tone without yelling. She started putting facts out in a calm way. She reminded people of her real place in the music world, not with big announcements, but with steady evidence. She brought up times she'd helped shape songs, times her writing showed up behind tracks, and collaborations where her touch was deeper than what the headlines showed. She made it clear that she wasn't some quiet talent floating on hype. Her success was built from real work, and the numbers, tour turnout, fans' loyalty, how her music stuck, weren't fake or bought. Then she added those lines that cut through the noise without needing a fight. Saying something like she gets bullied online all the time, but real love exists face to face moved the fight out of the loud feed into the real world where people could feel the difference. That wasn't weakness, that was self-control. She let the loud energy burn itself out while still showing she saw it, felt it, and wasn't letting it change her. That contrast became sharp. One side was trying to start a fire, the other stood right in the middle of it and didn't burn. Her last public replies had a soft edge of tired truth, like she was saying, "You can keep playing that same record, but I'm still here, still strong, still moving." That message landed the same for fans and for the people trying to catch a reaction. She didn't look like someone avoiding conflict. She looked like someone who refused to elevate it. That kind of control made the whole scene feel off balance in a way that helped her. So yeah, SZA's approach was smart and steady. She didn't let the loud side drag her into chaos. She kept the foundation visible, dropped proof when needed, and used calm words that still held weight. The whole situation showed how power can come from holding shape while others exhaust themselves trying to force a response. She didn't erase the fight, but she made sure it didn't define her. This wasn't just two big names clashing for clicks. There's a layer underneath that made it hit harder. By 2025, Nicki Minaj had a history of taking things public and turning conflict into fuel. She'd gone through major fights with other women in the game, used those moments to lock in her power, and made sure people kept watching. That style built her image as someone who won't back down, who speaks loud when she feels crossed, and who makes sure the world knows she's in control. SZA built something different. She kept her voice calm, personal, and deep. Her music felt like little moments you held onto. She didn't show up in full battle mode. Her strength was quiet, and people respected that. Her vibe was spiritual, real, and layered. So when public drama hit her, it didn't feel like the usual kind of fight. That made the clash feel uneven on the surface, but behind it, there were things that tied both sides together, even if nobody said them out loud. They weren't total strangers either. There were talks, asks, and chances to work together that didn't fully land. Some collaborations didn't happen, and that always leaves space for tension, especially when both sides know each other's weight in the industry. SZA's name shows up not just as a singer, but behind the scenes too. She had writing contributions, parts of songs shaped by her influence, and connections where her voice mattered even when she wasn't the one in the spotlight. That means her reach went beyond her own albums. People in that network expect respect to be given, but it isn't always handed out easily. So when Nicki stepped in with sharp questions about SZA's place and how real her influence was, it wasn't only about SZA personally. It pushed against a whole system of unspoken value, a system where some people get seen loudly and others are felt quietly. Nicki wasn't just asking if SZA was real, she was challenging the way that quiet power had been accepted without the same kind of loud proof the public usually expects. That challenge reached into what people thought they knew and what they were willing to respect without a fight. On the other side, SZA got dragged into a public field she didn't go looking for. She had to answer in a way that kept her real without turning into someone she's not. Her calm, steady identity had to hold up while the pressure tried to twist it into something reactive. That wasn't easy. The whole thing became two styles hitting each other. One loud, sharp, calling out and pushing hard, the other quiet, built on earned trust, trying not to get pulled off balance while still making sure she wasn't swallowed or misread. The audience saw both sides, Some waited to see which one would crack first, which one would slip up and lose control. That expectation added weight. It turned what could have been a short exchange into a test of strength and reputation. Yeah, it wasn't just personal pride anymore. It was a deeper fight about how power looks, who gets to claim it, and who gets to define who's real. You know, by the time the back and forth went public, it wasn't just about Nicki and SZA anymore. The moment cracked open into a full-on crowd fight. Rap beefs now pull whole communities in, and this one did the same. On Nicki's side, the Barbs moved fast. They've done this before. They grabbed every post, screenshot an old clip, turned it into fuel, and built it into a narrative that backed her up hard. They defended her like it was personal, breaking down what they saw as slights, calling out anyone who questioned her, and making sure her version of things echoed everywhere. Old tweets, past interviews, anything that could support her tone got pulled out and shared again and again. SZA's side didn't push the same loud energy. Her supporters came with a quieter kind of shield. They weren't shouting insults. They reminded people of what mattered about SZA, her sold-out shows, how her music hits deep for listeners, and the real connection she's built over time. They used clips of fans crying at her concerts, comments about how her voice helped someone through a tough night, and stories of people showing up for her without being asked. That loyalty wasn't about attacking back aggressively. It was about holding up what's real and making sure the world didn't forget that her reach wasn't built on hype, but on feeling. The platforms turned into war zones. X, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, every one of them had parts of the fight. Small lines got replayed, edited, and turned into clips with dramatic music. Someone would post a quick breakdown on TikTok, and the next hour it would be a trending topic, with people arguing over who had the upper hand. Algorithms weren't helping calm anything. They pushed loud reactions and short summaries because those got more taps and shares. So the stuff that needed explanation got buried under fast judgments. People started placing bets and comments, picking sides like it was a game, and even other celebrities added their takes. Some trying to fan flames, others warning about what happens when things go too far. Because of all that noise, the original conflict blurred. Nicki's posts became memes. Some funny, some sharp. SZA's quiet replies were labeled "taking the high road," and that phrase got used both as praise and as a way to try to downplay her response. Voices from outside the core fight jumped in too. Some were trying to calm things, saying two big women didn't need this chaos. Others leaned into drama, making comparisons to past feuds and asking if this would end in peace or blow up into something bigger. The fan communities didn't just watch, they shaped what people saw. Each side tried to lock the frame so their version of the story looked right. A single line from Nicki could become proof of a bigger plot if enough of the Barbs echoed it. A quiet moment from SZA could look like strength or weakness depending on who reposted it. That energy turned a one-on-one moment into something that felt like a movement. So yeah, what started with a subtle post and a sharp reply grew into a layered battle with many voices, many lenses, and a lot of pressure. The fans, the platforms, and outside opinions turned the fight into a long, messy narrative where control over how things looked became as important as the original words themselves. The heat didn't stop at name-calling between the artists. It went wider, and yeah, it got strange fast. What started as a personal back and forth moved into places most people wouldn't expect. Politics, threats, and people trying to turn it into something bigger than just a feud. Nicki Minaj took it beyond the usual social media fight and pulled in outside power. She tagged Florida Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna publicly, saying that she felt threatened by people connected to SZA's camp and wanted attention from people with real influence. That step changed the whole vibe. Then something from a live stream got twisted. A TDE affiliate said something that Nicki read as a possible threat. She didn't keep it private. She went public, mentioning federal agencies like the FBI and the CIA, asking for help in a way that made the conflict feel like it had real danger attached. Suddenly, it wasn't just about lines and subtle shots, it was about safety, who has influence, and how much weight a comment online can carry when it's taken into the offline power world. That move made a lot of people stop and look. According to Page 6, the escalation wasn't just drama anymore. It became a message that the fight had layers beyond the surface. That shift forced media to cover more than just who said what. Reporters started asking questions. Who really felt threatened? Who was using institutions to gain the upper hand? Was this a serious concern or a performance to shift public sympathy and attention? The answer wasn't clean. Some voices treated it like a real situation that needed careful handling. Others saw it as a play for narrative control, a way to make the opponent look dangerous or unstable, while positioning oneself as the one under attack. That mix blurred the line between real warning and showmanship. People watching couldn't easily tell whether a phone call to a politician was because someone was scared or because someone wanted to make the other side look like the aggressor. The feud turned into a layered story about pride, power, and who gets to set the rules publicly. It also exposed how modern rap conflicts can bleed into systems that weren't built for this kind of cultural fight. When one side brings in political figures and mentions federal agencies, the whole thing stops being a private disagreement and becomes a public test of positioning. Everyone around, fans, media, other artists, started weighing in, some trying to calm it, others trying to push it further. So what looked like a social media clash became a fight over narrative control, with perceived threats used as a tool and public institutions pulled into the middle. That escalation made it clear. This was about more than pride or a sly comment. It was about who could turn conflict into a story with real consequences and who would be seen as the one demanding attention or protection. This kind of clash between two powerful women doesn't happen in a vacuum. When Nicki and SZA started going at it, the moment didn't stay just between them. History got pulled in quick. Media outlets went straight to old playbooks, bringing up Nicki's past public fights, her battles with Cardi B, the way she's used conflict before to grab attention and build her brand, and comparing her to earlier women in rap who survived and thrived through drama. On the other side, SZA's image was already built around calm depth, quiet strength, and a kind of spiritual vibe. So the framing became automatic. Nicki was loud, sharp, ready to attack, and SZA was the one who wasn't trying to fight. But the tension was real anyway. Reporters and commentators started asking the same questions over and over. Was this just a misunderstanding blown up because of how headlines work now? Was it a calculated move by someone trying to gain traction? Or was it one of those moments where power gets tested and everyone watches to see who folds first? Some stories painted SZA as someone trying to not get pulled into drama, staying above the noise, while others suggested her quiet opening gave Nicki room to push harder. That comparison to earlier feuds added another kind of pressure. People wanted to know if this would burn out fast like a one-day headline, or if it would stick and grow into something that shaped the image of both women for months. Fans started remembering and reshaping past moments too. The legacy angle didn't just sit in news feeds. It got into how people judged who was winning and who was being slighted. Nicki's past history was used like proof that she doesn't back down and that her loud response was justified. SZA's quiet strength was either seen as maturity or, by some, a soft spot that could be taken advantage of. That back and forth of interpretation made both sides sharpen their moves. Each public reply, each pause, each social media post got weighed not just against what was happening now, but against all the public history attached to them. The media didn't just explain the fight, they packaged it. They gave it a storyline, added tension, picked sides sometimes without saying it directly, and stretched ideas about motives into bigger plots. A small comment turned into signs of disrespect. A quiet reply turned into taking the high road or not showing strength, depending on who wrote the headline. That kind of framing kept people coming back, kept the conversation alive, and made the whole thing last longer than it might have if it stayed private or quiet. The fight got layered. It became about more than the initial words. It became about the weight of reputation, the stories people already believed, and how a clash between two women in power is always read through the lens of what came before. The comparison, the labels, the pressure to not look weak or too aggressive, those things dragged the moment into a longer cultural fight. What might have ended quick became stretched, and now it sits in the memory of fans as part of a pattern, not just a single spark. What happens next matters more than who shouted the loudest at the start. In rap, every public fight leaves marks. People don't forget quickly. Now, the story isn't just about who won that moment. It's about how both sides use what happened to shape what comes after. Nicki Minaj went full force. That energy makes people take notice, and yeah, it shows she doesn't back down. That builds her image as the one who responds fast and hard when she feels crossed. But there's a line. If it keeps sounding like the same fight over and over, the heat can wear people out. Too much loud drama without a clear purpose can start to look less like strength and more like reaction. If she keeps pushing the same angle, some fans might start to think it's personal instead of strategic, and that could cost her the kind of respect she's built from being the one with control. Still, she locks in her reputation. She's the loud queen who won't let a slight slide. SZA's position is different. She didn't go loud. She held her ground quietly, showed receipts, and leaned into what makes her real. Her shows, her voice, her fans. That gives her a steady kind of power. If she keeps moving without overreacting or trying to escalate again, people could end up seeing her as the one who stood firm while the noise faded. She survives the storm, and her story becomes the calm that didn't break. But if this pops off again, if she gets pulled back in or feels forced to shout, her image could shift. Then she'd look less like the ruler of quiet strength and more like someone reacting, and the balance changes. There's another angle, something nobody can fully predict. Maybe they pause, maybe they cool it, or maybe they even find a way to turn this into something that benefits both. In rap history, some fights end with a surprising handshake, a collab, or a public nod that reshapes the whole story. Or it could get deeper, involve their teams, bring other artists in, or resurface later in songs and interviews. Right now, fans are watching, pointing, and placing opinions. The media is waiting for the next wave. The industry is taking notes on who moves smart and who burns out. The real win isn't in a single clapback. It's in what each woman does with the aftermath. Either she becomes the queen who stayed loud and in control, or the one who stayed steady while the noise died down. What started as a vague post blew up into a clash, you know. SZA's quiet move and Nicki's loud reply showed who holds power, who writes the story, and how fights touch politics. Which side hit harder for you? Comment, like, subscribe, and stay tuned.